with this. In South Central Kentucky, the trail of blood landmarkism is still quite prevalent, especially in your smaller, older congregations. Is there any resource out there that specifically deals with this mistake or this error? I was looking. I tracked down the booklet easily enough, and it. I'm sure there is somewhere. I'm sorry, it's never been an issue. I mean, I was given the booklet called The Trail of Blood, J.M. Carroll. I was given the booklet as a teenager, and it's jack chick level type stuff. And what it partakes of, it is very easy to take a narrative and press it upon the historical documents, and then select the documents you're going to cite and the material you're going to cite from them to substantiate the narrative that you want to present. Rome does this. Rome does it very well. You have to spend a tremendous amount of time to expose how well Rome does this because she's been doing it for a long time. Her doctrine of the papacy is based upon long-term utilization of fraudulent documents. The donation of Constantine, the Pseudo-Isidorian decretals were central to the development of the papacy in Western Christendom. And yet nobody believes those documents were historically valid now. But when people thought they were, the papacy was developed. Now you still got the papacy and the foundations are gone. Just an illustration of what you're dealing with here. And so what you have, it's not that everything in the material is false. There were groups such as the Waldensians, the Albigensians. Is it true that, well, there had to have, for example, Anatomy of a Hybrid and Reformers and Our Stepchildren. Leonard Verdine. Leonard Verdine, brilliant guy. I got to meet him before his death. He was 105. 105 when I met him. And took me out. He lived in Apache Junction back in late 80s, early 90s. Took me out for a walk in the desert, showing me flowers. And the guy was over 100 years old and was fascinated with flowers and had examined them. It was just brilliant mind. Like I said, when I was sitting there talking to him, I've told this story before, but when I was sitting there talking to him, I mentioned, he said something Luther said, and I said, Luther said that? And he just smiled and said, would you like that in English, Dutch, or German? And I was just like, oh man, I hope that would be awesome if I could keep a mind like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, Leonard Verdine's Reformers and Our Stepchildren been criticized for which sources you're using, so on and so forth. Every historical source, you've got to be careful on that. But Trail of Blood has a specific theo-historical or historical theological narrative that it's attempting to create that simply runs into, there are too many facts that it's ignoring and that it won't allow into its. So can we feel for the Albigensians and the Waldensians for the fact they're persecuted by what would eventually be the Roman Catholic Church? Of course. Does that mean that they were Baptists using the King James Version? No, it doesn't. Would either of those groups have accepted fundamentalist Baptists as brothers? I don't think so. Should we? And here's the thinking. The thinking is, well, But remember, it's the Catholics that wrote the history of these people. So actually, they were just like us, but the Catholics messed it all up. Well, once you adopt that kind of thinking, then any counterfact, any fact that's opposed to your narrative, just, well, someone corrupted that and blah, 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 blah. That's what you've got here. And what it feeds on are people who, I'm just looking at this. I was just scrolling through it here. I was looking for my own copy because it's in there someplace, but something that small, it'd be next to impossible to find. I thought I knew where it was. I couldn't find it. Anyway, just scanning through here. Years later, 1139 AD, Pope Innocent II called another of these councils, especially condemned two groups of very devout Christians known as Petrobrusians and Arnoldists. How much do we know about these? How do you know that they're very devout Christians? What do you really know about them? Same thing here. I was going through my Kindle edition before the program today. Didn't get finished. This does the same thing. It's a modern work. It does the same thing. It utilizes language within the context of the citation of actual sources to create a narrative that is not being derived from the sources. That's what you've got here. So you've got devout Christians. Alexander III called yet another, AD 1179, just 40 years after last. In that was condemned what they called the errors and impieties of the Waldenses and the Albigenses. There is great value in trying to more accurately understand the Waldensians and the Albigensian movement. But you have to accept the reality that there were things they believed which just make this narrative not fit at all. And so the point is, who knows who Innocent III was? Who knows who Alexander was? If people haven't read widely in church history, if you haven't read 2,000 Years of Christ's Power by Nick Needham, read it. It'll give you the context to be able to go, whoa, wait a minute, but what about, I'm going to ask Nick. Hey, Nick, you may be behind on this, but could you direct me toward some specific articles? I'm going to write to him today. But if he catches this, or maybe, I doubt he's listening live at this late hour in Scotland. But Nick would be my go-to guy to track something down for you there, Cody. Maybe he'll be able to give me something that would be even better than even some of these thoughts that I've shared with you even now.